The iPhone Air is what the people say they've been asking for. Something new. It's the first iPhone in a while that will absolutely shock you when you take it out of the box and hold it in your hand. Of course, that means cutting a few of the things we've come to expect from the iPhone. The second speaker, the second and third cameras, but also the thickness and the weight. And the more time I spent with it, the more I appreciated what was still there. The super big and bright display, the much improved front camera, and most surprisingly, the battery life. Here's what I learned switching from the iPhone 16 Pro to the iPhone Air. The iPhone Air sits high up in the iPhone 17 lineup between the base and great value iPhone 17 and the top of the line iPhone 17 Pro, which is truly a professional tool. The iPhone Air takes the place that a hypothetical iPhone 17 Plus might have been. Apple didn't make a Plus model this year. So if your thought process is, all I care about is the biggest screen and the most battery life, Apple would point you to the 17 Pro Max. Unfortunately, that means paying extra for features you might not use, at least $1,200. Over the last few years, it feels like Apple has been holding the balance of design, features, cameras, and battery life at basically the same levels, resulting in 4 phones that basically look the same as each other, and basically the same as the phones that came before and after. The iPhone Air upsets that balance. It's shocking at first that it doesn't have all the features we've come to expect, but does it really lack any of the features we need? The iPhone Air is a radical and stunning design. It looks like it's from an alternate reality, one where Apple never stopped pursuing thinness. It's like 10 years of thinnovation have hit us all at once. It technically has flat sides with rounded edges, like the last few generations of iPhone, but it's so thin that the flat part is only the middle 60% of its edge. The edge that touches your hand feels so thin that it's like holding a credit card, and it makes other phones feel like a bulky deck of cards. It really feels light as a feather, too. It's only 17% lighter than my iPhone 16 Pro, but if I didn't know that, I would probably guess 40%. Laying on your back, holding it above your head, you can hold it for longer. You don't get as tired. And when you drop it on your face, it won't hurt as much. It's a bit of a trick because most of the phone part of the phone is in the much larger plateau that spans the width across the back. The whole thin part on the lower half is basically just battery, USB-C port, microphones, and Taptic engine. Unlike the iPhone 16e, which also has a single camera setup, this camera protrudes quite a bit for that reason. Holding the phone horizontally is actually somewhat pleasant. The plateau feels like holding a camera grip. I got the gold one, which you definitely didn't notice because by all intents and purposes, it just looks silver and white. I literally thought there was a mistake when I pulled it out of the box. If a yellowish light bulb is considered warm, then I would call this half a degree above room temperature. It's less gold than the Desert Titanium iPhone 16 Pro, which I didn't think was possible. The only way to make it look gold is by shining a very yellow light bulb on it in a dark room at just the right angle. Rumors that the iPhone Air would have abysmal battery life were greatly exaggerated. Now, the first few days after getting a new phone are a little unfair as far as battery tests go. Your phone has to download the entire contents of your previous phone, download all your photos and videos, all of your apps, index the entire file system, and you're probably just using it more because it's your shiny new phone. The first 3 days, I woke up with it in the morning and basically used every feature on the phone for the purpose of writing this review. On Friday, I logged over 8 hours of active use, with all the aforementioned background tasks happening, and only used 84% of the battery total. Saturday, the first full day, nearly 7 hours of use, and only 74% drained overall. On Sunday, I was mostly taking pictures and videos of the phone, so I only used it a touch under 5 hours, and I only drained the battery 39%. So in my regular routine, I would have no problem with battery life whatsoever. According to the specs, the iPhone Air has 88% of the raw battery capacity of the iPhone 16 Pro, but it comes with iOS 26's new adaptive battery mode enabled out of the box to make up for the difference. And if you're coming from an old model like an iPhone 13 Pro, you'll get far greater battery life. Of course, you can get even greater battery life gains by upgrading to a 17 Pro instead, but ultimately, you don't have to be afraid of the iPhone Air battery. The display is a 6.5-inch panel, which sits halfway between the iPhone 17's 6.3-inch display and the Pro Max's 6.9-inch screen. Personally, I considered the 16 Pro to be just a bit too big. It only fits firmly in my hand without a case, and I really have to stretch my thumb to reach the opposite side. Surprisingly, the iPhone Air, despite being bigger, is also only a little too large. Because it's so much thinner, I can still hold it comfortably. But then, in other positions, the illusion of its size is broken, and I have to two-hand it a little more often than I'd like. But I recognize I'm probably the odd one out. It's probably just right for most people, splitting the difference between the other two sizes. The display is also brighter, hitting a peak outdoor brightness of up to 3,000 nits. With its smaller battery, I wouldn't expect it to maintain that brightness for very long, but on the one sunny day we had outside during my testing period, I had no trouble at all seeing the screen. Other display specs are exactly the same. It has always on and Pro Motion, just like the other Pro phones, and in landscape it supports the 2-column layout, so you know Apple considers it an extra large display. The big story with the cameras is the front-facing camera. It's no longer a 12-megapixel 4x3 sensor, but an 18-megapixel square sensor. That enables some pretty cool new features. For one, you no longer have to rotate the phone between portrait and landscape. You can tap a button and take a landscape selfie holding the phone vertically, where it's more comfortable. It also has center stage, so it'll automatically zoom out as more people enter the frame to make sure they're in the shot. Although if you tap any of the zoom controls yourself, center stage turns off, and you have to turn it back on by reaching all the way at the top of the screen. Personally, I'd probably just capture the entire frame every time. I don't want selfies to be tightly cropped to my face. The context of where you are and what you're doing is just as important, if not more important, than capturing your face. But it has another trick up its sleeve. If you're on a FaceTime call, it'll automatically stabilize on your face if you're doing chores or taking a jog. This will be a big help for when you're FaceTiming your mom or dad who simply refuse to hold the phone still. Dual Capture will record video simultaneously on the back camera with your own reaction from the front camera, enabling a whole new class of video recording. I was kind of hoping this would work in tandem with center stage, allowing me to focus on recording what's in front of me, while the iPhone does the work to make sure my face is in shot, but this doesn't seem to be the case. Nonetheless, these are both excellent new camera features. The front-facing camera has been ignored for far too long. The single rear camera is similar to the setup on the iPhone 16e. It's the 48-megapixel 1x lens that's effectively unchanged from the iPhone 16 carried over to the 17 lineup. That means you can sensor crop to a 2x zoom and take full-resolution 12-megapixel photos, or let the machine learning bump it up to 24 megapixels. Apple says the AI upscaling built into the sensor is improved, and indeed, it seems to sharpen up hair pretty well. But Apple is still exercising caution when it comes to AI upscaling compared to its competitors, which I personally greatly appreciate. Obviously, you're missing the telephoto zoom lens from the Pro phone, which is disappointing not to have, especially since the 17 Pro was just upgraded to a 48-megapixel telephoto sensor. And I use the telephoto lens all the time. You're also missing the ultra-wide lens, which removes the ability to take those high-resolution macro shots. But it also removes that annoying thing where it switches to the macro lens when you're just trying to take a regular 1x photo, so you win some, you lose some. It's also missing cinematic mode, Dolby Vision 4K 120 video, ProRes RAW, Genlock, and spatial recording for Vision Pro. all the features you were never going to use in the first place. Surprisingly, according to social media, the most egregious omission from the iPhone Air isn't the lack of the extra cameras, but the lack of a bottom speaker. Every iPhone since the iPhone 7 has used both the top and bottom speakers for playing stereo sound, although that's ultimately not the legacy the iPhone 7 would end up with. The iPhone Air, however, only has a speaker in the earpiece. Doing a direct side-by-side comparison, I can definitely tell that the iPhone Air has less bass than the iPhone 16 Pro. It's really noticeable when you're watching videos in landscape and the sound only comes from one side. But a benefit is that when you're playing media holding your phone in portrait, you don't have to worry about covering up a bottom speaker with your thumb. There's no speaker there to block. Of course, this means that watching a video in landscape, you really don't want to cover up the top side. The absolute volume, though, is just as good, even if it does sound tinnier. So I don't think this should be an absolute deal breaker. Internally, the iPhone Air brings Apple Silicon to a new high point. The A19 Pro chip is binned with one fewer GPU core and slightly underclocked, but it is still an absolute beast. Compared to the M1 Mac Mini, in benchmarks, it's 50% faster in single-core performance, 10% faster in multi-core, with a 13% faster GPU. That's Apple's entry-level Mac performance, available all day in your pocket, even faster. Apple's new C1X modem claims twice the performance of the C1 modem, introduced just earlier this same year. It still doesn't support 5G millimeter wave, but I still have never been in a spot that supported 5G millimeter wave in 5 years, so. The N1 wireless networking chip now handles Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Thread radios. There's one room in my house, completely opposite of my Wi-Fi router, that does have kind of a spotty connection, and the iPhone Air performed just as well, if not a little better. It also has improved performance for AirDrop and other continuity features. One of those things that'll just be a little bit better as time goes on that we don't often appreciate. Now let's talk accessories, starting with the MagSafe battery. The new MagSafe battery snaps on the back of the phone and extends your battery life by an additional 65%. Unlike generic MagSafe batteries, it picks the right moments to charge up your phone when it'll be most effective. It never lets your phone get too low, but it also stops charging around 90%. If you want the fastest possible charging, you can attach the MagSafe battery and plug your phone in simultaneously to a 20-watt or higher power adapter. It has a charging light on the back that looks like it appears out of literally nowhere. You can plug it in, or you can plug your phone in with it attached and it'll charge up both. It's also a very pleasant object in the hand. The back is the softest hard plastic you'll ever touch, and the inside is a really nice rubber that makes it very satisfying when you attach it to your phone. It doesn't easily slide off either. Just like how the bare iPhone Air is just the right width for my hands, with the MagSafe battery attached, it's just the right width for my hands to grip around the edge. The reason it leaves a small gap is so that you can use it simultaneously with the bumper case. Unfortunately, its design is so tall and wide that it won't fit on other phones unless you have a really big phone and a really thick case. There is a reason for this. Just like the iPhone Air itself, Apple made it as tall and wide as possible so that it could be as thin as possible. If Apple made a generic MagSafe battery pack that fit every phone, it would have to be much thicker, and that would ruin the point of the iPhone Air. Now, that's probably not a satisfying answer if you planned to buy this for your iPhone 17 Pro, but that is the reason nonetheless. If you have any other model, I can recommend the Anker Nano Power Pack as a slim MagSafe battery. Somehow, the bumper case returned. The idea of a bumper case is that it protects the part of the phone most likely to hit the ground, the corners, while letting your hands touch the bare back of the phone and appreciate its thinness. Unfortunately, the iPhone Air bumper fails at both of these tasks. While the iPhone Air bumper case protects all four corners of the front, it doesn't protect the upper two corners on the back. The camera lens and plateau stick out beyond the bumper. I know Apple wants the bumper to be this beautiful polycarbonate band that's uniform in thickness, but it's ignoring the reality that it isn't 2010 anymore. Phones aren't uniform in thickness. The bumper is also surprisingly bulky. You can still appreciate the iPhone Air's thinness by touching the back of the phone while you touch the front, but the bumper itself is so thick that it ultimately makes the phone feel big, and that ruins the whole point of this phone. I would like the bumper a lot more if there was a second part of the bumper that protected the camera plateau and if the edges were a little thinner. As it is, it makes the phone feel too big for the people who like to go caseless, and it doesn't offer enough protection for the people who need a case. It's not really for anyone. The clear case offers a greater balance of trade-offs. It wraps all the way around the phone, including the plateau and camera lens, while adding less than a millimeter of thickness to the back. With the case, the body of the phone is still thinner than a bare iPhone 6. It comes in two colors, Frost and Shadow. Frost is light with a white accent, while Shadow is a little darker with black accents. Only buy it if you're buying the black iPhone Air. Apple's Crossbody Strap is a new accessory that lets you wear your iPhone around your shoulder. These are super convenient if you don't have pockets and you don't want to stow your phone away in a bag. It also makes your phone harder to pickpocket or snatch out of your hands on a busy city street. The crossbody strap is most useful on day trips when you want the fastest possible access to your camera. It eliminates even the friction of pulling it out of your pocket. Although it's kind of annoying the rest of the time. At my desk, in the car, around the house. It's a little finicky to set up. You have to take off your phone case, carefully thread these tiny loops through the hole in your case, then clip the strap on. This isn't something you can casually take on and off. If you're not sure you'll want it all the time, you should leave it attached to a second case. I'm surprised Apple didn't try engineering a smarter special clip mechanism. It's just a piece of string and a metal loop. The strap itself is loaded with slim, flexible magnets so that it's always flush and tidy, even in the areas where it doubles over itself. It's also a little finicky resizing the strap to make sure it's flush, but it's a neat trick once you get it right. The build quality is, of course, top tier. You can tell this is the same company that has been making excellent watch straps for over 10 years now. The fabric feels soft, super strong, and perfectly smooth. The little metal snaps have polished chamfered edges and make a very satisfying click. The opening in the little resizing loops is exactly sized for the fabric. If you try looking for imperfections, you will have to look very close. This accessory isn't unique to the iPhone Air. It comes in colors color matched to the entire iPhone lineup. Most of Apple's cases have lanyard loops in the bottom, although I imagine it'll work with third-party cases as well. The iPhone Air stands out because it's the second act of a three-part story. So we haven't seen the conclusion yet. The iPhone 16e, introduced earlier this year, is a fresh approach to the entry-level iPhone. It's an iPhone 14 that skips MagSafe, upgraded with a single 48-megapixel rear camera, action button, A18 and C1 chip, in a clean, lightweight design. The iPhone Air is a fresh approach to the mid-range iPhone. It's an iPhone 17 Pro that skips the vapor chamber cooling with a single 48-megapixel rear camera, camera control button, A19 Pro, C1 and N1 chip in a clean, lightweight design. The folding iPhone, expected next year, will take these engineering lessons in miniaturization to the extreme. But it'll have more volume to work with, so I expect it'll make fewer compromises. It'll probably have room for that second speaker and extra cameras. The iPhone Air may be a stepping stone, but as we all know, Apple doesn't like to comment on future products. It's still a remarkable device on its own merits. A new industrial design language has seemed to emerge on Apple's high-end products. You don't become the biggest company in the world with over 1 billion users by only designing your products one way. The M1 Pro MacBook Pro, the Vision Pro, the Apple Watch Ultra, and now the iPhone 17 Pro. Compare their details and silver, and you can see the family resemblance. Apple has been allowing its Pro products to be unapologetically professional, freeing up its consumer products from the burden of carrying that complexity. I think that for the first time, the iPhone 17 Pro is no longer the flagship iPhone. It's been moved upmarket. Speculation that this ultra-slim iPhone would be deeply compromised for the sake of its beauty are simply not true. Yes, it is beautiful and chic, but it's also a phone I could imagine happily owning. It's the first new iPhone in a while that makes the model it replaces feel old after just 1 year. It feels like the MacBook Air dropped in a market of horrible, inch-thick, ugly PC laptops. The iPhone Air is the iPhone of the year. I'm Griffin Jones with Cult of Mac.